Yo, welcome everyone to Weird Growth, the podcast where we hear about the strange and often unpredictable journeys that founders take. Today, we have Kai Lovell, young man of many things, but notably now, Zipline.
Yeah.
Zipline streamlines key workplace processes like visitor and contract compliance, a lot, primarily in healthcare situations, and gathers in-the-moment feedback to improve the customer experience. Welcome, Kai, and thank you for joining us on Weird Growth.
It's a pleasure, Cam. Really nice to be back in the studio.
It is. This is our first episode for 2022.
Right.
And we thought we would have you back as our first guest for the year because we've had a pretty wild past year together, I suppose. We've been through a lot.
Yep.
And there's some really interesting things that we have to talk about around building new products, finding first customers.
Yep.
But before we get into that, please introduce yourself. How do you introduce yourself to new people?
It's a challenge, isn't it? So yes, I guess my sort of 1 minute version is, I'm 17. I dropped out of school at the end of year 11 to work in startups and work in and around that sort of ecosystem. I've always loved business. I've always loved tech, and really, spent the last year working in a couple of different startups.
Yep.
Worked at Ammo for most of last year.
You did?
Absolutely loved it, and had some great exposure to a bunch of different products. And now working at Zipline, sort of managing a whole bunch of different things like a US launch and working with the team there. So just really early on in the journey, but driven by building great products and bloody love using them as well.
Yeah, it's really exciting, man. And what you've achieved in your career so far already is really impressive.
Thanks,
and really proud of you. And this is the first time we've had someone who's worked at Ammo on the podcast. So we don't talk about Ammo a whole lot on Weird Growth.
Yeah,
but how do you describe what we do here at Ammo and what it's all about?
Yeah, so I think Ammo fits into a really nice gap in this sort of space in Perth, in the global ecosystem of startups and product based companies, where you're not looking for a sort of plug and play agency. You're looking for someone that really understands the challenges of being a founder.
Yeah.
And I think yourself being a founder, a lot of the team working on their own projects and in the past launching things, like that's a big part of how we think already. So I think it's Ammo becomes a bit of a trusted partner.
Yeah, absolutely,
and can really relate to what the journey you're on. Yeah,
the hard thing that founders experience when they're starting a new business is just that uncertainty of there is just so many variables, and deciding what is the best course of action and having someone walking alongside you from a marketing and growth point of view, giving you that confidence is a really powerful thing.
Yeah,
and that's what I love about what we do at Ammo anyway. So anyway, it wasn't intended as a plug. It's just we don't often talk about Ammo, and it's it's
good to get that
Weird
take.
Growth exists. So thank you, mate. I do have a pop quiz for you.
Great, hit me.
If you were to start from scratch a new business today, right now, what would it be?
It's interesting because I think there's, and this is going to go against exactly what I said in my intro, but I think I'd probably want to play with a bit of I like the term sweaty startup.
Yeah, sweaty startup.
So there's a guy on Twitter called Nick Huber who sort of had a blog and all that sort of stuff where he sort of talks about there being nothing wrong with like a quote unquote boring, unattractive sort of day-to-day business that doesn't involve like deep learning or like massive like consumer growth social apps.
Is this the self-storage guy?
Yes.
And tomatoes?
Yes.
Right.
So he has a bunch of self-storage facilities and it's like whatever it is, it's like, cutting lawn, like you look like a Jim's mowing, right? Like if you can actually go into a market doing boring things, but that, toilets break. They're going to keep breaking, right? So there's never going to be a lack of need. And you come in, you just do it really well, with great systems, great people. That would, and maybe still be down the track, something that I play with is just being able to have a boring business, but just done
meat
really
and
well.
potatoes, provide a service that people are always going to be willing to pay for, cutting hair, whatever it might be.
Exactly. And I think for startups, like there is, feel that you have to always be seeking investment, always be, on the cutting edge of latest technology. And that's what makes the startup world so exciting, right? But I think as well, there is room and space and need for businesses that aren't as exciting but still get the job done.
Yeah, but I think the exciting thing about tech startups is this infinite scalability of software. You don't need to invest or in more widgets or more staff or more plant in order to scale a software business. You just copy the code over and over again.
Totally.
And so I think it's globally scalable potentially from day one.
Yeah.
And the meat and the potatoes, yes, you can create a great business model, but whether or not you're incrementally more profitable with every new unit you sell, different kettle of fish. But yeah, really interesting. Yeah. Great answer, mate. So today we're doing something a little bit different on Weird Growth. Last year, while you were at Ammo, we launched our own internal product inside Ammo called MyFunnel. So what I'd really like to talk through in this episode is how we went about even identifying MyFunnel as a opportunity, why we built it, how we created something which was really a minimum viable product, and then how we launched it onto Product Hunt and got nearly 1,000 people to use it.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a really interesting, useful case study for a lot of people.
Yep.
And then the skills that we kind of utilised in the team and from yourself to do that. So I think that'd be a really cool chat. So just a little bit of context, MyFunnel, as of today, has had 783 submissions. And it was upvoted 352 times on Product Hunt. It was number 6 for the day on the same day.
Just got out the top 5.
That's right. On the same day that Canva released their new video editing feature on Product Hunt. So it was a pretty competitive day, and it's pretty awesome still to be in the top 10.
Yeah, and it's funny. I sort of think about that, and it was funny because. And we'll get to that, but the video that we made for Product Hunt and that launch, I used the Canva video editor to make that video. And I was like, that's just perfect. Yeah. But, also I'm sure Canva put a bunch of push behind getting people onto Product Hunt too. So no doubt there may have just been more people on the site that day as well, and just looking at other products as well. So
anyway, we better tell people what the problem is that we're solving with MyFunnel. So what was the problem? Why did we create it?
So we were having some conversations in the office. I think actually it sort of came out with our growth workshops, and I think looking at at the end of the day, people want to be able to have a funnel and just some ideas for their particular business, or like what type of channels actually work.
Yep.
Is
from a marketing point of view.
From a marketing point of view, exactly. So, there's a great book called Traction. The 19 channels that you can sort of use.
Yep. Gabrielle Weinberg.
Yeah.
Founder of DuckDuckGo. Yep.
There's a bunch of stuff in there, and there's 1,000 more these days, and for a founder that can be pretty overwhelming, and. Not everyone is going to have access to the idea yet, or the budget for that idea to come to Ammo and sit down and for a workshop or engage us. So
exactly.
I think for us, we thought that there'd be an opportunity here to put some of the data that we know is already there around what channels work, our gut feel, our sort of experience doing this sort of stuff.
Yep.
And just put those experiment results that we've been running with our clients and offer that up to people to give them just a starting point to see what to try.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's after doing this for 7-8 years, you start to see a lot of patterns and things that work, things that don't. And, I've probably had hundreds of conversations with early stage founders, and you start to see, okay, well, you've got a product which is a physical, e-commerce type product. It's worth under $100. Your customers are, young guys who are into motocross. How do you target them? And so there's
probably not on LinkedIn.
Probably not on LinkedIn. Probably not on on Quora. But there's some obvious channels that do work for that sort of thing.
Yep.
And so codifying that knowledge into something where we can, really help a whole lot of people really quickly, rather than me sitting down having one-on-one conversations with
getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and slugging it, and then going, well, actually, you're not really ready to work with us here at Ammo yet, but here's a tool which you can plug in the details around your product, your customers, and then we can give you some really clean advice about how to get started with your marketing.
Yeah, and I think you had spent some time on this even before we'd necessarily talked about productizing that opportunity, and to put together like a very, very early version of like, if you are an app, right? Like there's going to be certain channels that are going to work. So I think it'd be interesting to hear as well from your perspective, like when you were doing that sort of little spreadsheet early on with those channels, like where did that come from, and how that sort of then became this?
Yeah, well, I think it became that pattern recognition where you could sort of see the obvious tactics for various things. So for business to business, sales where, they're high value and high involvement, it'd be great to use LinkedIn, but then drive like, an ebook download or something like that where you can start communicating with people over time.
Yep.
And then maybe you would have a sort of sales follow-up process, maybe some remarketing to build some brand recognition, and then through to the actual deal.
Yep.
And so like a much more drawn out kind of process for a B2B deal versus like a low value e-commerce thing. And so like, that advice seems kind of obvious to us, but for a lot of people when they first start building their building a new business, it's like, geez, where should I start?
Totally.
And just giving them a really basic questionnaire. My thinking was, these are the same questions I ask every time, and it's the same answer that I give every time. So why don't I automate it?
Yeah, okay.
So I was trying to think through how I could actually do that.
Yep.
And the starting point for me was, okay, well, let's write up a Excel spreadsheet with all those common questions, and then depending on the answers, here's the common answers.
Yep.
So
and maybe just like as much for an internal client already,
for us,
right?
Yeah. And so then I think the result, was this almost matrix of just numbers in an Excel spreadsheet over multiple tabs, and we used the Pyrometrics framework. Yep. So we'd sort of say at the top of the funnel at awareness, these are the different channels, and then all the way through to activation, retention, and revenue and referral. So it was basically just building in that kind of corporate knowledge, I guess, into a model, and that was where it got to. I didn't really know what else could be done. That was the very first stage of my funnel, and then you came along and we started looking for new projects that we could build internally as little products out of Ammo. So I guess we could probably talk about how we took that sort of genesis and then started building it into a product.
I think that's the next stage of the journey where we sort of looked like what we already had and what gaps we needed to fill first in that data. And then sort of started to think about, really where the value proposition lies, really started to think about, okay, like if we are going to build this out, what questions do we need to ask to really get to the bottom of someone's business? Because this is the tricky thing, because you could ask, literally 100 questions and you could have so much data processing that you'd need a designated AWS server to do it. And you could then give someone like a really beautifully specific version of their business, to the nth degree, right? And you can also then ask like 3 questions and give some broad advice.
Yeah, which would be less useful. So where do you find the balance?
Exactly. And I think that was that next stage. So then we sort of started to look at, okay, how do we get data, like answers to those sort of questions into your spreadsheet, right? So we're like, okay, let's do a type form. We'll put some questions in there. And then I think we just sort of sent that out to some people and
type forms, for those who don't know, is just a really nice, easy sort of form system, which rather than giving you just a bunch of fields on a page, steps you through the questions, and it looks quite pretty. Yeah,
and it feels like a sort of the narrative around those questions is there for people. So we sent that out. We got some good responses, and then I would sort of.
Who did we send it out to? Like, who were the first customers that we approached? You think?
Some of our, I think, customers. Like, I think we also sent it out to just some of the community, like some of the people that we regularly have in the office for conversations and
in the startup space. So basically what we call friendlies. Yeah.
Correct, the friendlies. So we then I remember I just put some of that data and I just plugged it basically into that spreadsheet.
Did it manually.
Yeah, and I just made a couple of copies and just did it for each person.
Yep.
And then it was like, that's totally not what that business should be doing.
Yeah.
We need to go back and change that sort of reference point in that matrix.
Yep. So we're able to fine tune the model over by just getting some real world examples over time.
Yeah. And then like getting the feedback as well, like, the wording of that question around whether you're a B2B company, business to business or business to consumer.
Yep.
Like that wasn't very clear. So like going and then refining that wording as well.
Yep.
And I think all of that sort of stuff was like, okay, great. Like this is like the very, very early version. Like the logic is there.
Yeah.
It is actually valuable. And then it was like, yeah, okay. So like, how do we now validate this? And how do we actually start to build that out? So I'm not sitting there filling out numbers and spreadsheets.
Yeah. Nice. We didn't really have a name for it yet, did we?
No,
We didn't know what it was called.
no. But I
In fact,
remember,
it was just going to be like a lead gen thing for ammo.
yeah. It was literally just going to be something that we could have on our website, and it would give you a funnel, and then we would basically just say, like, if you'd like help implementing this funnel, like come and join ammo.
Yep.
But I think very quickly we sort of started to realize that this could actually have some power and value in its own standalone thing, and would potentially still have some kickback for ammo down the line, but not so directly, and that wasn't really the big driver I think anymore. It was actually, let's just create something really valuable for this community and have something for us to be able to point those people that weren't ready for us yet to somewhere. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the main values of the ammo team is to be helpful.
Yeah.
And to be as useful as we can be in our community in terms of the startup ecosystem, because whatever we can do to grow that and make sure that as many people are successful as possible, well, then our market grows,
Exactly.
as a whole, and it's just a good fun thing to be involved in too.
Yeah.
So it was really primarily about being as helpful as possible.
Yep.
And I think we made that decision when we, called it My Funnel, and we created its own separate brand apart from the agency.
Separate website, separate domain.
Yep.
Like branded it up differently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think we made that decision just, this is a separate thing. It's not trying to drive leads to ammo or anything like that. It's just to be purely helpful.
Yep.
And to build a cool tool.
Yeah, and I think there was also then a decision, like as soon as we decided on that, we were like, right, okay, we really need to separate it. Like it's not, My Funnel by Ammo Marketing. Like it was actually just its really own standalone thing, because we wanted people to actually then, with all that decided, like go into it not feeling like it was going to be a lead gen or feel like it was like just a smart way for an agency to actually just get your contact details. To this date, like we haven't, blasted out that email list and said to people like, hey, like come and become an ammo client. Like it still isn't that. And I think it was important to give it its own brand identity. And it was awesome working with Alex, our designer, in-house on that, making it, different to ammo in lots of different ways. Just continue to be out in its own right.
Yep. The tagline on the website's marketing clarity in less than 5 minutes. And it's a free tool to, give you a clear marketing funnel for your business.
Yeah.
So that's where we got to. We'd built out the type form, the matrix. It was basically roughly functioning. What was the next step for stepping it up, getting it ready to take on volume of users? At a website, but then what did we have to do to sort of really level it up? Yeah,
there was a bunch of stuff, and it was sort of like a couple of week period where I just sort of had to, wrap my head around, okay, so first of all, when we get those answers, like what are people expecting when they get back, right? So, what is it, a visual version of that funnel? What context or explanation needs to be provided? So first of all, it was like, okay, what do we want that end result to be for people?
Yep.
Is it a PDF? Is it, a video? I think we'd sort of played with like also doing some Loom responses back to people going through their funnel.
Right, video response. Yeah, record. Yep.
And I think it was important for us, like, to make it scalable and make it like what we were saying at the start, like the reason you do software is it's just a copy and paste. So then I was like, okay, I need to rebuild a bunch of this stuff. So that when people submit that type form, it's actually triggering processes and doing those calculations and then making that PDF and sending it to them within like a couple of minutes. And just using a bunch of tools like Integromat, which sort of does a bunch of connecting with APIs. It would pull in that data, it'd run it against all those calculations. And what was cool is that when we built it out, we still had it out of a spreadsheet, so we would be able to, as we were going along and getting feedback from those early users, we'd go, so that business was like a makeup business. We recommended to go and like, you know, try, I don't know, like YouTube marketing to like males, and it was like, it's probably not great.
Wrong. Yep.
So we were then able to update it, and it would update it in the live calculations.
Yeah, we could change the weightings of the answers on the fly. That
exactly.
was really cool,
So it built all that out, and then it would actually go into, it would use a Google Slides template.
Yep.
And it would pre-fill all that information using some variables, and then it would send it out to people.
Yep.
And at one point, I had it set up so that I'd have to like click approve. In our database.
So you would double check the answers were
so
right.
I wasn't like 100% confident, but then I was like, okay, this is working. Let's just turn it on.
Yeah. Some of the other features we wanted were that we wanted to prevent people just being able to change the variables and kind of reverse engineer what the matrix was. So we required an email address and a few personal details from people, so that then they could have the answers emailed to them just to prove that they were legit.
Yes.
So there was that gate kind of thing.
Yep.
So that was one thing that made sense to then email people a PDF file.
Yep. Rather than just show it to them at the end of the form, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because then you could just use any fake name and you'd get the results, you know, without having that transaction of I've given you my contact details. No, you give me the thing in return, which is of value to me.
Yep.
And then, you did another cool little feature where if they had a website and you could go away and pull their logo into the deck as well.
Yeah, and that was another reason why it was great to have their sort of name and email, their work email.
Yep.
Is because, like, you know, you can use a platform like Clearbit, which is basically a massive database, like, you know, billions of records of individuals and companies and attributes on them. You can do some really cool stuff with it. Like, you can actually identify based on someone's IP address who's viewing your website.
Yep.
Which is, you know, really helpful for seeing if there's a hot lead browsing
creepy.
your pricing page, and a little bit creepy as well.
Yeah. The Clearbit's really cool. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And I think one of the cool things that we used that was their logo API. So you can put in someone's website, pulls their logo from like Facebook page or favicon on their website, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But what it was also really good for, having their website and stuff there, is that we get a result, and we'd actually be able to, if we wanted to, just to do some quality assurance, go in, have a look at their business, like spend 10 or 15 minutes understanding it, and then go and check their funnel that we generated and see if that's what we'd recommend it to them, you know, as a team at Ammo.
Yeah.
And that was important.
It certainly was. All right, so we'd built it out. It was working. We were pretty happy and proud of what we'd created so far. Still an MVP.
Yep.
You know, it wasn't really a piece of software per se. It was a stitched together sort of series of automations.
Yeah.
But we were ready to start turning the dial up and reaching new customers, right?
Yep.
So eventually we know that was Product Hunt. But what did we do in between? How did we sort of start scaling that reach? Do you remember?
Yeah. So originally, like, once we'd sort of got up to that point, we'd when we got up to that point, we sent it out to a bunch of friendlies. Like, in the early stage, we just wanted to get some more users through it. I think we ended up with, you know, 50 or 60 people before we really pushed it out. Going through it, probably a bunch of those were just my tests too.
Yeah.
But we had some early data, and that was important. And then beyond that point, I was like, okay, like, you know, how do we get people through this? Obviously, that's our bread and butter. And one of the things that we'd been just observing as an agency over the last year or two is the increase in community. And having a bunch of people really interested and passionate about what you're doing, even before you've done it. And I think that was pretty important for me to play with. So I looked to LinkedIn, my sort of, you know, personal LinkedIn page, and started to share some videos around this journey that we'd sort of been filming along the way. And it's sort of, put together, you know, that early video that we'd sort of chatted about what we were trying to do here, and then the branding process and actually making it, and all these different sort of chapters in the journey. And I was just sharing that, and people were starting to understand what I was doing.
That's some pretty good engagement from that.
Like, you know, thousands of views. You know, some great comments, some great messages, people wanting to try it. And I was like, look, it's actually not ready yet. Like, and that was really
created
cool.
a bit of a buzz
Absolutely.
about it before it was launched and ready. But it was also building in public.
Exactly. And I think that's, part of this journey. And I think probably as founders listening, like a massive lesson is, the launch day is actually not the day that you should be telling people about what you're doing. It's,
The lead
many days and weeks before,
Yeah.
months even, depending on what you're doing. Because I think as soon as you get people excited, they're going to be the ones celebrating you on that sort of launch day, not for the first time knowing about your product, right?
Yep.
And that was, without getting too far ahead in the story, like, when we did launch, it wasn't a cold start. It wasn't people just, this is what Kai's been secretly working on for the last, few months with the team at Ammo. Like, they actually knew what was going on, and they were like, sick. I've been learning about this for the last few weeks. Like, I'm definitely going to go and check it out right now.
Yeah. The best way to come out with a bang is leading up to it, as opposed to all in one day.
Yeah. And that I think was a massive contributor to the success we had, in launching it pretty widely.
Yep. Did you plan out how you were going to create that content? Was that a structured thing?
Yeah. So what, I looked at like where were the real, if you look at that sort of journey of building, like where were the real key moments?
Yep.
Where were the real insights? And trying to think about how is this valuable for someone watching it, right? Like if you are a founder, for us being able to put a real emphasis on like the validation of it, is a great lesson for other people. So like, I was jumping on Zoom calls with people and going through their results and saying like, hey, is this valuable? Like, also asking questions around like, would you pay for this? Would you share it with other people? Like trying to understand not just if it is valuable, like not just a yes or no, but actually like on a scale.
Yeah.
Those are things that I love to capture in those videos, and planned it out around those sort of key moments, and worked with one of our interns here, Shannon, to put some of those videos together. I don't know.
It wasn't very hi-fi. Like, it was pretty basic.
Literally my iPhone walking around and chatting shit for a couple of minutes until I got it right.
But that's what made it authentic, and I think that's what made, if it was too polished and produced, then it would have felt like an ad as opposed to building in public.
A journey, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, like the limitations you can place on not doing that because of the tech you have or don't have. You're watching Weird Growth right now. Like this would be really annoying if it was on a bad mic and filmed on an iPhone.
Sure.
But I think for the sort of video that I was making, that was okay.
Yeah.
And it felt authentic.
Yeah. All right. One last question before we get on to the Product Hunt launch. We explored monetizing it and finding a way that we could actually turn it into its own business.
Yes.
What did we do to try to figure that out, and how did it come out?
Yeah, so sort of explored like, where that value capture might happen, like where that made sense. So, was it in that Typeform? Typeform's got a payment field that you can put in at the end and connect it up with Stripe and take payments, straight away.
Yep.
The question was like, whether people would get the value straight away. And that comes into then also your product marketing, right? So, before people are even in that Typeform using the product, they get why they're doing it and they can expect some good value from it. So that was also part of it, like whether we needed to do some more product marketing around the value proposition. We also then explored like once you'd got your funnel, whether or not we could then upsell you afterwards on, like a session to go through that funnel.
Yeah, how to implement it, or what each of these suggestions mean.
Exactly.
In terms of actually actioning.
Yeah, and also thinking about like accountability. Like, is there value in helping people stay accountable to actually experimenting with this funnel? And this is, still all stuff separate to, it was going to be ammo folks doing it, but like it wasn't still thinking about how we can funnel them back into ammo. It was like, how can this actually just be a distinct set of services and value? Would people want to have a weekly check-in call for like $50 a month?
Yeah.
To like actually have one of us go, hey, like notice that, last week we'd set this goal around, playing with one of those activation channels we recommended in the funnel. Like, how'd you go with that? Like,
or would they pay $20 for a much more detailed run through of how it all works or whatever? Yeah. So we didn't quite get there, did we?
No. And I think, there potentially would have been some more playing, to get to that point. But I think as well, like, for a lot of people, the product, if anything, confirmed what they were already doing for some people.
Yeah.
And while that was massively valuable and really sort of, that confirmation is you're heading in the right direction.
Yep.
Then that wouldn't necessarily in their heads of screamed like, oh, you need to pay for this.
Exactly. Yeah. Or might have given them one or two little ideas of things to try, but it wasn't valuable to then invest in. They could go and figure that out themselves. Probably.
Exactly. And then sort of the function of that is, well, if it's completely new stuff to that person, they might not even be in the position yet to be able to pay for this sort of stuff, even at a small price point, if they're really early on in the journey of that idea.
We'd created a little bit of buzz, shared with people the journey about creating it. Reached out to our own organic, audiences. Time came for the Product Hunt launch.
Yeah,
walk us through how that works.
Yeah, so Product Hunt, for those that haven't heard, is a really interesting platform created by a guy called Ryan Hoover, and is really sort of the epicenter of the latest and greatest in digital tech and digital products. So the definition of products for them is quite broad. Sometimes you see, like Slack once upon a time launched on Product Hunt.
Yeah.
The MacBook Pro once upon a time was put on Product Hunt. You can put it on there as a hunter. So, I can just be Joe Blogs, who my mate's building a cool thing. I just chuck it up there. Once upon a time, it was literally like sort of hacker news where you just find cool articles and you just chuck it up.
Yep.
You weren't the author of that article.
Yep.
Whereas now it's more of like a really core tenet of like a product's marketing strategy.
Yep.
Where, there's weeks of planning and like obviously the people who created the product are the ones launching it. It's funny, I sort of, a couple of years ago, I remember posting a little tool that I'd found that someone, some agency in the States had made. And they reached out to me like 2 hours later and they're like, hey, like, can you take this down? Like, we're launching this in like 2 weeks. And I've been like, and it's like, so once upon a time, and and still to this day, you can post whatever you want on there, but generally the person who's made it is going to post it up there. So it lasts on there for 24 hours. In that 24-hour window, you can upvote it. The people that get to the top of that sort of list sort of get product of the day or eventually product of the week or the month if they've got really high numbers.
Yep. And it drives traffic directly to the site. Or
So you can, put in like if you're a Chrome extension, you can put your link to the Chrome Web Store or the iOS app or the website. It's fantastic because it's got a lot of attention on it.
Yep. Massive audience.
And the sort of type of audience, which are early adopters and while not directly friendlies, are still really supportive and understanding of like early MVPs and stuff that isn't necessarily fully fleshed out.
Yeah, no, they love trying out new things and they love to be the first to find the new thing that they refer to all their friends as well.
Exactly,
so it's a really great community.
Very captive.
What do you think are some of just the keys to success to doing well on there?
They have a bunch of great resources out on the interwebs. I got a great Medium article on launching. From my perspective, one of the big things that helped was the video. So we put together a literally a 30-second video that I mentioned earlier was made in Canva. That took me an afternoon and just basically pulled out the value proposition that we were creating around the product that we had on the website. Used the branding, had some product visuals. Yep. Helped people see the mechanics of the product and not just some static images. That was pretty big. And I think sometimes if you got bigger budget, bigger time frames, you can actually make some pretty creative videos and have people going around the office doing different products and demos and all that sort of stuff. But that's a big one. Doing a really really good job of like nailing your sort of one-liner. Because that's pretty much, apart from like a buzzy title and a nice logo, the only thing that's going to make people click.
Is that 4 or 5 words which describes what you do.
Correct. And like, the famous ones are sort of on your Y Combinator application where you have to put like the one sentence version of like...
Uber for dogs.
Yeah, Uber for dogs, exactly. So I think ours was like, marketing clarity for your startup in 5 minutes. Something along those lines. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like feature. But I don't think it should also just be benefit. Like I think there's a bit of a line there.
What do you do and why do I want to?
Yeah, like it's sort of like you could have said like, I don't know, like generate a marketing funnel using a form that understands your business. And you could also then just say like, you know, be a better marketer in your startup. Like you want to find
you don't want it to be too broad.
Yeah. So that's really good to get right. And then I think also just generally like, again, that interest you build before the date. So I think Product Hunt have got like a launch product in there as well. So like you can actually, and I was going to play with it, but I didn't get the time to actually put the product up there.
Oh, really?
And get like an early audience going, and it just like lets
Before
them
the
know
day.
once you've launched. Yeah,
right. That's
so
cool.
they got a couple of things like that.
Yeah.
But really, it's just, you know, the interest you're driving to it from your own channels, and the people that are visiting just generally, like how good you are at capturing their interest.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, I think we sort of had a hit list of people we were going to invite to join the conversation. Because you don't ask people to upvote you.
No.
You ask them to join the conversation.
Correct. We sent it out to sort of, you know, 50 odd people that are sort of, you know, our friendlies and really good, smart people in the startup space that, you know, may have directly found value from the product or been able to share it with those.
Yeah. And the tactic was to get that surge of activity early on. So we were in the top 10 early on.
Yes.
So that when the US woke up, because I think it switches over at midnight US time.
Midnight US.
And then so when the people in the US started to wake up and jump onto Product Hunt, we were at least still in the top 10.
Yes.
To start sort of keeping on the momentum.
And that, you know, that day I think 40 products launched.
Yeah.
And we were number 6, right?
6, pretty good.
And that I think is a great result. And you know, I don't see it as a great result just because it was number 6. The big thing for me is that you know, gave it some great exposure to have more people through it and hopefully have more people get value from it.
Yeah. Amazing thing is it continues probably 6 months after launching, or maybe less, maybe 4 months after launching, it continues to have a trickle of
every day, every second day.
Yeah.
It's and that's I can only imagine the result of the build up to and the Product Hunt launch, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's my funnel. If anyone's interested in that, check out myfunnel.com.au, and I think we'll sort of end the convo there because there's, you know, it's still partway through the journey potentially for it. We might find other things we can do with it in the future.
Absolutely. Yep. Oh, and a shout out to Charlie at Startup News for doing a little article on it as well.
Yeah,
the day we launched.
True.
You know, the thing is, you know, as multi-pronged as you can make it, I think that's the biggest lesson. But
for sure.
It took a lot of people to get involved to make it work.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the lead up rather than on the day that the work is done.
A lot of fun.
It is fun. Yeah. This wasn't your first project, obviously. What other projects have you launched? And do you want to tell us about Perth-for-Perth?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard of Perth-for-Perth as well, so this is news to me.
Excellent. Well, those days I weren't as cut on my marketing skills as I am now, thanks to you guys. So, look, I've always been interested in launching things, and I think early on when I was sort of starting to get into websites a bit more, that was sort of my intro to all this sort of stuff. Like I remember I was sort of 13, 14, I started to do a bit of freelance sort of stuff. Started with Wix websites, worked out that was pretty crap. You know, then I tried to start to learn Webflow, was, in the first few thousand people using Webflow.
Wix is cringe. Webflow's based.
Yes, correct. Correct. It sounds like straight out of Alex's mouth. And Webflow is a really powerful tool, and spent a year and a half, 2 years just mucking around with it. And eventually then I was sort of doing that for, clients and really enjoying it. And I was like, how can I get this sort of stuff? Like, surely I can build some stuff with this. So during COVID in 2019, we had those sort of first lockdowns.
Yep.
When we have to remember, like, now we're pretty used to all this sort of stuff, just, being in the news and being our reality, less so in here in WA. But back then when it started, it was a whole new world. And I think, originally cafes and restaurants, it was really hard for them to be getting out there the message that they were still open and doing takeaway and delivery. And that was really, hard for people to get access and info on. The systems around that weren't built there. So really interesting, I came across some guys in Oklahoma in the US.
Yeah.
That made OK for OK, which was Oklahoma for Oklahoma, and built this platform on Webflow where you would basically, submit either your cafe or a cafe near you that you knew was open and serving, and you'd put in their website and their hours and what things they were offering, curbside delivery or pickup or delivery and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
And then it would just be a CMS. It'd just be a content, management system in Webflow. You'd have the collection of those cafes. You could filter by your local area, put in your postcode, and link off to their socials and all that sort of stuff. And what was really cool is that they actually put that out as a template.
Oh, wow. So you just copy and paste it.
Exactly. So you could, but then I rebranded it. I put a bunch of new features in.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time playing around with it. And launched that within sort of a month of seeing their project. What was amazing is some people that loved Webflow were doing that in Melbourne and doing that in Tokyo. And,
so cool.
And that was really cool.
Yeah.
We had a little group chat where we were all sort of talking about it. So I built that, and we had about 30 or 40 cafes and restaurants on there.
Oh, well done.
Tens of thousands of visits, and just sort of, got a bit of media coverage, had a bunch of people sharing on their social media.
Yeah.
Just really grassroots stuff. But
it's lovely.
Really enjoyed just being able to do my part. Sort of, I can't go out there and make a good coffee for the life of me.
Yeah.
But I can, use the skill set I was building.
Help make sure those cafes survive the plague.
Yeah, or at least do as much as I could. And I did a similar thing when the bushfires were on. I actually sort of built a similar looking website with all the different places you could go and donate. Right?
Oh, awesome.
Because, you had the Lord Mayor's Relief Fund and you had all these, binnies and then, all these different organisations. So you can go on there and sort of, if it's humans you're wanting to support or animals or, infrastructure or services, you could go in and then it would link off. And I sort of worked out based on a couple of different calculations that there was about 400 donations off that platform just through link clicks.
Well done,
so
good.
And just that sort of stuff was really fun to set up and share, and I think that got me hooked to building great little products and websites and launching them.
It's a buzz, hey?
It is.
Yeah, awesome. We can't miss TEDx.
Yeah.
How old were you when you did your TEDx talk, and tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it's been websites and products the last few years, but back when I was sort of 11 or 12, there was some early business interest, just setting up little e-commerce stores on Shopify and just always trying things, always just experimenting and just playing with new projects. And I think that the TED talk that I did when I was 14 was just a really interesting perspective on entrepreneurship and growth mindset, told from the angle of a young person interested in business. I don't think I said anything particularly remarkable, but I think
the fact that you did it is pretty cool.
But I think hearing it from someone who is just a different perspective to what you usually hear when talking about those sort of topics and whatnot, I think that was potentially the value from that talk for some people, and a great experience for me. Obviously, learn a lot about public speaking and gave me a bit of exposure and sort of started to build a bit of a personal reputation, and really enjoyed it. But also every time I think about it, very surreal, very strange.
What could possibly be next for the future for you, Kai?
I have no idea, mainly because I look back a year ago and could not have for the life of me pinpointed what I'm doing now.
You just quit year 11.
Yeah, exactly. And the year before that, I was just moving schools.
Wow.
So I think this sort of several years of, evolving, lifestyle and commitments and engagements, I suspect that, in the 20 or 30, 40, 50 years to come, that'll continue to evolve. But really excited to be working on products and at Zipline at the moment. That's a really exciting time to be jumping in there and and sort of working on those challenges with the team. But just more than anything, continuing to focus on my approach to things and how I approach challenges wherever they face me, I think.
Thanks, mate. What's one big piece of advice you have for particularly young founders who are looking to grow?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different takes on this. Mainly for me, like as someone that has worked in startups, that has launched some stuff, like I haven't grown a startup to to massive levels yet.
Yeah, but you've been involved in
absolutely
in some that
and I've got that sort of perspective, and I think for a founder that's interested in growing what they're working on, like first of all, I just ask why you're working on it, like really just reconnect back to why you started it. Like, that was, I think for me with my funnel, like the biggest thing, like even in that sort of small project in the scheme of some of this sort of stuff, always connecting back to like originally why we started it, like the problem we're wanting to solve is a very simple but a very powerful thing to keep connecting back to. So I think, whether you're just at the precipice of launching after an MVP or you're scaling a really successful business already, like just returning to those origins, both personally and also for that business, I think is really helpful.
Yep.
And then I would just look to like play to your strengths. And I think that's what I've really tried to do. Like that example, in lockdowns and bushfires, there's only so many things as individuals we can do to help.
Sure.
But I think leaning into those is the only way that we sort of get through these things. And certainly the best way to grow your business, I think.
Yeah. I think the thing that's always impressed me about you is your just insatiable drive to constantly be learning as well.
Yep.
You did the alt MBA. Yep. You have some, you're always reading something. You have amazing resources at your fingertips of tools and articles and things that you've found.
One out of my ear hole, yeah.
And so, I think whenever I see young people who I know are going to be successful, those are generally the traits that they shows, that they are lifelong learners and just insatiably curious.
Yeah, and I think those people make the best friends. They make the best partners. They make the best employees. I think if you're looking at the world as having a bunch of stuff that you already have and that you can have to offer and you can teach to people. But at the same time, always looking at like on the other side, what you have to learn and what you don't know yet. I think if you can just continually look at those two things, that's a good place to play in.
Cool. All right. Show and tell time. What book, tool, device, toy are you enjoying right now? Is it physical software and for under $200?
Yeah. Okay. So the $200 on the dot.
Yeah.
And I was going to bring it in, but I've actually got it set up at the moment, and I'll tell you why. It's actually a tripod.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a little Leo photo tripod, and maybe I'll send you guys.
Is that like little articulated one?
Yeah.
That bend around and stuff. Yeah. Right.
So it's
for your phone.
Yes, exactly. So it's not the gorilla tripod with all those little balls.
Oh, okay.
It's just hard legs that you can adjust.
Yeah.
And I'll send you guys the actual model if you want to put it in the description. But it's a very expensive small tripod for your phone. But for me, I love having great quality video, even just when I'm using my phone. So just being able to set it up and plug it into my computer to do a Zoom call or film a video for my funnel.
Yeah, it's cool.
Whatever it is, that's been really fun to use. I've actually got it set up at the moment with my camera, looking over at the building site next to us in Subiaco.
Oh, right.
Because they're putting up cranes at the moment and doing everything.
Doing a time lapse.
I'm doing a time lapse, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to try and sell it to the building company at the end. But I think that's a great one that I just love playing. It's great quality. Software, I mean, everyone that knows me sort of knows that I'm just always full of a software recommendation, whether they like it or not. But there's one that I've been really liking at the moment called Luma. So lu.ma is their website.
Yep.
I think that's the Malaysian domain extension.
Yeah, MA, yep.
They just run with it. And it's a really cool platform that was actually born out of COVID when we were all doing Zoom calls and people were doing like Zoom groups. There was like a landing page for your Zoom call. So people could like RSVP.
Okay.
And like see some more information about the event rather than just like getting a Zoom link.
Yeah, cool.
So that was really cool. And then they were like, okay, this is bigger than that. So now they've got like a community platform where you can have like, members of your community, you can post content, a bit like Circle, but then have like events that people can RSVP to and and do all that sort of stuff. So been really enjoying using that as an attendee of some events, of some cool communities that I've been a part of, and also thinking about how I can potentially use that for my own stuff too.
Yeah, magic. That's really cool, mate. I'll have to check Luma out.
Yeah, absolutely.
lu.ma. So if people do want to stay up to date with you and your constant stream of consciousness and all the tools that you're discovering and things, what's the best way for them to get in touch or follow you?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of LinkedIn.
Yep.
I love having coffees with people and chatting about products and mindset and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Also, my website, kailevel.com.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about a bunch of different rambling sort of stuff on there. Post some interesting tutorials of cool tech I'm playing with and whatnot. Always really interested to have conversations with like-minded people that love learning.
Mate. Kai, thank you so much for being on Weird Growth.
It's been a pleasure, Cam.
And sharing your infinite wisdom with us. We'll wish you all the very best for the future, and super exciting what you're working on at Zipline at the moment. What should people do if they're interested in checking out Zipline too?
Zipline.io is our website. We're at the moment just going through a bunch of a sort of repositioning of the website and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, also us on LinkedIn, some cool new jobs and all that sort of stuff. So
what sort of roles are you looking for at the moment?
So we're hiring for about 20 odd different roles at the moment. Some in the US as well, but looking for customer success managers, looking for BDRs and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, super
awesome
exciting.
Company and great opportunities. To be involved. Very cool.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks so much again, mate. Really, really great having you on the show. And if you enjoyed Weird Growth, please do subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or if you're listening to us, you could actually be watching us right now if you wanted to on YouTube. So please do check us out. You can see us in the flesh. There's 2 camera angles.
Get to see Cam's great new moustache that he's got. No, I'm only joking.
Well, you've got the doozy of a moustache. And if people didn't realise, Kai's actually a voiceover artist. So you can thank me for inviting him on for those dulcet tones over the airwaves.
That's a bit of moonlighting you're referencing there, yeah.
But anyway, that's it for another episode of Weird Growth. Thank you very much, Kai. And thank you all for listening and watching. Until next time, bye-bye.